You were handed a story about the 1%. A story that says they're a different species, smarter, luckier, better connected, born ahead of you, protected by a world you never touch. And at some point, without realizing it, you started living as if that story was true. But what if the biggest advantage the 1% ever had wasn't money, or talent, or timing? What if it was a belief that you quietly agreed to? Welcome to the 1% illusion. In this audiobook, you're not going to get lottery fantasies or get rich in a weekend nonsense. You're going to get something less glamorous and more powerful, a breakdown of the mental mechanics that keep most people average, and the patterns that separate people who rise from people who repeat. We'll cover why most people are psychologically trained to stay reasonable, the invisible agreements you've been living by, the emotional habits that quietly flatten your ambition, the discipline edge nobody posts online, and how to start dismantling the illusion today. This is not financial advice. This isn't a promise of instant wealth. This is a wake-up call for 2025, a world of AI automation, algorithmic distraction, endless comparison, remote work chaos, and constant noise. Because the 1% isn't a number in a bank account. It's a standard, a mindset, a way of operating. And here's the truth you need early. The 1% don't win because they're special. They win because they stopped believing the story that keeps you stuck. When you see someone succeeding and your first thought is, must be luck, must be rich parents, must be connections, what are you really doing? You're not analyzing them. You're protecting yourself. Because if success is unreachable, you don't have to take responsibility. If they are different, you're excused from changing. If they are lucky, you can stay comfortable and call it realism. But every time you explain away someone else's results, you quietly shrink your own potential until that explanation becomes identity. Identity becomes behavior. Behavior becomes destiny. This audiobook isn't here to worship the wealthy. It's here to expose the illusion. Because the real divide isn't money. It's ownership. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Comfort Conspiracy. The biggest misconception about the 1% is that they are competing against you. They are not. They are competing against comfort. Look around in 2025. Infinite streaming, infinite scrolling, AI-generated entertainment on demand, constant social comparison, food delivered instantly, remote work with weak structure, notifications, updates, opinions, outrage, every second. We live in the most comfortable era in human history. And comfort doesn't attack you like a villain. It seduces you like a friend. It whispers, not today. You deserve a break. Just one more video. Start tomorrow. Comfort looks like rest. Like normal life. Like reward. But comfort doesn't stay a moment, it becomes a pattern. Patterns become habits. Habits become identity. And identity sets your ceiling. So here's the question most people avoid. When was the last time you chose discomfort on purpose, not because life forced you, but because you wanted to grow? Most people only change when pain cornered them. The 1% train before the emergency. They study while others scroll. They practice while others talk. They save while others spend. They repeat boring fundamentals while everyone else searches for hacks. It isn't dramatic. It's really exciting. It's consistency, not fireworks. And that's why most people ignore it. Discipline doesn't trend. Here's a line worth remembering. Comfort builds cages that feel like freedom. Because you can be entertained, distracted, and fine for years without realizing you've been contained. But comfort is only the surface. The deeper issue is identity. Chapter 2: Who told you who you are? Before you cared about money, status, or the top 1%, someone gave you a label. Parents, teachers, friends, culture, religion, statistics, social media. It sounded harmless. Be realistic. People like us don't do that. You're not the ambitious type. Just find something stable. Don't aim too high. And without noticing, you built a mental ceiling. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they accepted a description of themselves that was too small. Here's the real split. Some people believe they can expand. Others believe they are fixed. If you think discipline is genetic, confidence is something you're born with, intelligence is capped, and who you are is permanent, then you'll self-edit before you ever attempt the climb. And the prison is powerful because it feels logical. So ask yourself, how many of your limits have you actually tested? Not assumed. Not feared. Not imagined. Tested. The 1% doesn't begin with money. It begins with self-permission, permission to be a beginner, permission to look foolish temporarily, permission to outgrow your old identity. Most people protect their image more than they pursue their future. But the 1% make one decision that changes everything. They treat identity like something editable. They stop asking, is this me? And start asking, can I become this? Because identity drives behavior. Behavior creates results. Results reinforce identity. Most people run that loop unconsciously. The 1% interrupt it on purpose. And in 2025, your inputs shape you faster than ever. Algorithms feed you more of what you already are until your feed becomes a mirror and your mirror becomes a cage. The 1% edit their environment. They choose rooms that stretch them. They consume information that demands growth, not comfort. Now comes the real fear most people won't admit. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of separation. If you grow, you might outgrow people. If you change, you might lose approval. So many people sign an invisible contract. Stay familiar. Stay acceptable. Stay small. The 1% sign a different one, temporary isolation for long-term elevation. Next, we deal with the addiction that keeps people emotionally comfortable and strategically powerless, blame. Chapter 3, the addiction to blame. Blame feels smart. It feels socially aware. It often sounds justified. And to be clear, obstacles are real. Inequality exists. Background matters. But there's a difference between acknowledging obstacles and handing them the steering wheel. The 99% acknowledge and surrender. The 1% acknowledge and strategize. Blame protects ego. If it's the system, you don't have to upgrade. If it's your boss, you don't have to sharpen skills. If the market is saturated, you don't have to become exceptional. But blame has a hidden cost. It removes agency. And agency is the core currency of change. Ask yourself, when life goes wrong, what's your first instinct? Do you inspect your decisions or default to the external story? The 1% have a brutal habit. What could I have done better? Not because they enjoy self-criticism, but because ownership creates leverage. If it's yours, you can fix it. If it's always theirs, you have to wait. And waiting kills momentum. Here's another line to keep. Blame explains. Ownership improves. The world is full of outrage economies now, feeds built to keep you angry, certain, and stuck. Constant outrage trains helplessness. The 1% don't pretend problems don't exist. They just refuse to let problems define their ceiling. They ask, what's my move? How do I maneuver? What can I build anyway? Because responsibility creates speed. Blame creates delay. And speed matters in 2025. Next illusion, busyness. Chapter 4, busy, but not better. Busyness is the most socially accepted way to stay stuck. It looks like effort. It sounds like ambition. It earns sympathy and praise. But being busy isn't the same as building. In 2025 you can, Answer emails all day and create nothing, attend meetings all week and move nowhere, watch productivity content and avoid the real work business hides from measurement. Impact doesn't. So here's the uncomfortable question. What measurable progress did you produce this month? Not motion. Not intention. Progress. The 1% don't necessarily work more hours. They work on fewer things with more intensity. They understand, focus compounds. Fragmentation drains. Attention is currency. And attention is under attack. You can't create deep value with shallow focus. The 1% say no constantly, not because they're rude, but because they're serious. Every yes to something small is often a no to something meaningful. And when you cut the noise, you face what most people avoid: silence. Silence forces honesty. That's why people stay busy. But the 1% schedule thinking, reflection, learning, strategy. Because time doesn't reward effort. Time rewards direction. Next trap, comparison. Chapter 5, the comparison trap. Comparison doesn't kick the door in. It leaks in. Why you scroll? Why you listen to someone your age doing better? Why you watch curated wins? In 2025, you're exposed to more highlight reels in a day than previous generations saw in decades. And you don't compare reality to reality. You compare your behind the scenes to their edited trailer. Comparison creates the feeling of being behind. And that feeling becomes a quiet poison. But here's the truth: comparison isn't about them. It's about your uncertainty. It points directly to what you want, what you fear, and what you haven't committed to. The 1% don't delete comparison. They convert it. They ask, what's the skill gap? What can I learn? What do they do repeatedly? They turn comparison into data, not drama. And they stop chasing status signals. They chase skill signals. Most people want to look successful. The 1% want to become valuable. Also, sometimes you don't feel behind because you're unlucky. You feel behind because you've been half in. Commitment eliminates most insecurity. And remember, your timeline doesn't matter if your trajectory is strong. Next illusion, readiness. Chapter 6, waiting until you're ready. I'm not ready yet has delayed more lives than failure ever did. It sounds responsible, but often it's fear dressed in logic. More time. More money. More confidence. More credentials. Meanwhile, someone less prepared, but more decisive, moves. Preparation matters. Planning matters. Skill matters. But preparing can become a socially acceptable form of hiding. Because action invites judgment. Action creates feedback. Action risks failure. Here's the reality: potential is invisible. Output is undeniable. The 1% aren't fearless. They're decisive while afraid. Confidence isn't a prerequisite. It's a byproduct of repetition. Action comes first. Clarity follows. Waiting has a cost: momentum decay. Delays inflate fear. The 1% shorten the gap between decision and action. So pick one thing you've been postponing, and move within 24 hours. Not perfectly. Just decisively. Next illusion, motivation. Chapter 7, the motivation myth. Motivation feels like electricity. And that's why it's unreliable. Emotions spike and crash. Life interrupts. Stress hits. Sleep drops. And the fire disappears. The 99% build change on emotion. The 1% build change on structure. Motivation starts the engine. Structure keeps it running. If you only act when you feel like it, you're not leading your life, your mood is. Discipline is rarely exciting. It's repetitive. Quiet. Often boring. But boring builds. The 1% don't wake up inspired every day. They wake up committed. And commitment builds something deeper, self-trust. Every broken promise to yourself teaches your brain, my word doesn't mean much. The 1% do the opposite, small promises, kept consistently until they become unshakable. Instead of, how do I stay motivated? Ask, how do I reduce decision fatigue? Design your environment. Lower friction. Automate the basics. Because discipline is not just willpower. It's architecture. Next, discipline without direction is wasted. So we need clarity. Chapter 8, Clarity before acceleration. Speed is worshipped in 2025, fast money, fast growth, fast scaling. But acceleration without direction multiplies mistakes. The 99% chase movement. The 1% chase alignment. Alignment requires stillness, thinking, evaluating, telling yourself the truth. Are you chasing what you want or what looks impressive? Are you building freedom or collecting validation? The 1% ask a different question, what does winning mean to me? Clarity turns discipline into precision. And borrowed goals can feel clear, too, until you wake up years later with a life that looks successful and feels empty. Define your values. Your non-negotiables. Your version of a powerful day. Because clarity is the compass. Discipline is the engine. Next challenge, visibility. Chapter 9, the fear of being seen. First you fear failing. Then you fear judgment. Then you fear visibility. Because when you improve, people react. Some celebrate. Some question. Some distance themselves. Some subtly want to hold you back because your growth challenges their comfort. So people shrink. Not because they can't succeed. Because they don't want to stand out. But the truth is, you can't become influential while invisible. You can't lead while hiding. Visibility doesn't mean being loud. It means being unapologetic. Dimming yourself doesn't protect you. It limits you. And here's a line worth keeping, embarrassment fades. Regret stays. So ask, if you weren't afraid of being judged, what would you start tomorrow? Next, even success has pressure. Chapter 10, the pressure of rising. A new fear appears when you start winning. What if I can't maintain this? What if they expect more? What if I lose it? Success anxiety is real. When your unknown expectations are low. When you rise, pressure increases. And if your identity hasn't caught up with your results, you feel unstable. That's identity lag. The 99% are familiar with struggle. The 1% become familiar with responsibility. Pressure isn't proof you're failing. It's proof you expanded. So instead of treating pressure like danger, treat it like information. What skill must you build to sustain this level? What habit must you reinforce? What standard must rise with you? Because you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. Next, we redefine wealth. Chapter 11, Redefining Wealth. When people say the 1%, they picture money, mansions, jets, watches. That's the marketed image. And it's incomplete. We've all seen it, money with no peace, status with no stability, fame with no freedom. If wealth is only income, anyone with cash is winning. But real wealth is control, control of your time, attention, emotions, environment, identity. Income is linear. Leverage is exponential. And the deeper truth, the real game is psychological. If your impulses run your life, money won't save you. If you can't protect attention, opportunity will overwhelm you. Time freedom is wealth. Attention control is wealth. Health is wealth. Emotional stability is wealth. And here's a hard test. If your income doubled tomorrow, would your habits hold it, or would chaos expand with it? The 1% aren't defined by net worth. They are defined by self-mastery. Next illusion, success requires destroying yourself. Chapter 12, The Balance Myth. You've heard it, to be the 1%, you must sacrifice everything. Sleep, health, relationships, peace. That belief scares people away from growth or pushes them into burnout culture. Truth, sacrifice is real. Chaos is optional. The 1% sacrifice strategically. They don't give up everything. They give up what conflicts with their direction. To build skill, you sacrifice distraction. To build wealth, you sacrifice impulsive spending. To build health, you sacrifice convenience. To build clarity, you sacrifice noise. That isn't misery. That's alignment. Balance isn't equal distribution. It's intentional allocation across seasons. Growth without awareness becomes burnout. Balance without growth becomes stagnation. Maturity is choosing the middle path deliberately. Next, if your self-image stays small, you'll self-sabotage. Chapter 13, The Ceiling of Self-image. You can work hard, get disciplined, even get results, and still snap back to your old baseline. That's not always a willpower issue. It's self-image gravity. Self-image decides what level of success feels normal for you. What income feels safe. What responsibility feels tolerable. What attention feels acceptable. If you see yourself as average, exceptional results feel unstable. So you unconsciously correct downward. The 1% upgrade self-image by building evidence, small promises kept, repeated. Proof builds belief. Belief raises standards. Standards shape actions. Actions build results. Results reinforce belief. You don't wait to feel like the next version of you. You behave like them until it becomes natural. And remember, you cannot outperform your self-image long-term. Next, the path people avoid, the old you has to go. Chapter 14, The Death of the Old. You, final integration. Transformation sounds inspiring until it becomes personal. Because real transformation requires loss, not of potential, but of identity. You can't become someone new while protecting the version of you built on excuses, distraction, and comfort. And there's an uncomfortable middle period, the identity gap, where you're not who you were, but you don't yet feel like who you're becoming. That's where most people retreat. The 1% endure that gap. They understand, growth isn't just addition. It's subtraction. You don't add discipline. You remove negotiation. You don't add confidence. You remove avoidance through repetition. You don't add clarity. You remove noise. Some environments will no longer fit. Some relationships will shift. That isn't betrayal, it's evolution. And you don't carry shame into evolution. You don't build the future by hating the past. You build it through self-respect. Now here's the final truth, the 1% illusion only survives when you believe they are inherently different. They are not. They are consistent. They are responsible. They are disciplined. They are patient. They are willing to evolve. And all of that is trainable. So here's your contract. Choose one non-negotiable standard for the next 30 days. 1. A wake time. A daily deep work hour. A workout. A reading habit. Tracking spending. Learning a skill. Not dramatic. Not perfect. Just protected. Because 5 years from now, you will either be grateful you started building standards, or you'll wish you had. And here's the closing line, you were never locked out of the 1%. You were locked out of their standards. And standards can be chosen today. Quietly. Decisively. 10 money secrets no one will teach. You. Expand your life. Don't shrink your dreams. Most people think they have a money problem, when what they really have is a perspective problem. They spend years trying to cut their way to wealth, skipping small joys, downgrading experiences, repeating, "I can't afford that." And without realizing it, something dangerous happens, their goals get smaller. This isn't a list of quick tips. It's a set of fundamentals, truths about money that most people never hear in school, at work, or even from people who love them. Because money isn't just math. Money is psychology. Money is leverage. Money is identity. And when you misunderstand it, it doesn't just affect your bank account, it quietly shapes your choices, your confidence, and your entire future. Here are the 10 secrets. Secret number 1, wealth is built by expanding value, not shrinking spending. Live below your means sounds wise, and it is, to a point. But if your entire strategy is reducing, you train your mind to think in limits. Cutting cost has a ceiling. Earning potential doesn't. Imagine 2 people. One spends an hour trying to save $10. The other spends an hour learning how to earn $100. Same hour. Different direction. The wealthy don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "How can I afford this?" That shift matters because your brain responds differently. When you say, "I can't," your mind stops. When you say, "How can I?" your mind searches, and searching leads to solutions. Solutions lead to income. Income can become assets. Assets create freedom. Discipline matters, but if being responsible becomes an excuse to avoid growth, it turns into fear wearing a suit. The goal isn't to spend less. The goal is to become more. Secret number 2, fear is more expensive than failure. Most people don't stay broke because they fail. They stay broke because they hesitate. Fear has a cost that never shows up on a statement, the price of delay. The idea you never launched. The skill you postponed. The investment you avoided. The conversation you didn't have. Failure hurts once. Fear charges rent every day. Ask yourself 2 questions. 1, what's the worst that could happen if I try? 2, what's the worst that could happen if I never do? Regret compounds heavier than risk. Wealth isn't built by avoiding discomfort. It's built by calculated exposure, taking smart risks with preparation, not reckless gambles. Instead of asking, "Is this risky?" ask, "What's the downside, and can I survive it? What's the upside, and is it worth it?" Is the risk asymmetric, small downside, big potential upside? Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move anyway, with a plan. Secret number 3, the sunk cost trap keeps people poor. Strategic quitting can make you rich. Never quit is popular advice, and sometimes it's right. But staying loyal to the wrong path can cost you years of income, energy, and opportunity. The sunk cost trap sounds like this: "I've already put so much into this." But money doesn't care what you already spent. Time doesn't refund itself. The market doesn't reward pride. A powerful filter. If I hadn't already invested in this, would I start today? If the answer is no, that's not failure, that's clarity. Persistence without evaluation is stubbornness. Persistence with honesty is discipline. Sometimes the smartest financial move is walking away early enough to redirect your effort into something with real upside. Secret number 4, automation beats willpower. Willpower feels strong until life gets messy. Stress rises. Energy drops. Motivation fades. And the plan that depended on being disciplined collapses. Systems don't care how you feel. If you have to decide every month whether to save or invest, emotions will eventually interfere. But if it happens automatically, progress becomes inevitable. Automate in layers. Automatic saving, automatic investing, automatic debt payment, automatic reinvestment. If you own a business, automatic tracking/reviews. Automation removes drama. And most financial damage comes from emotional decisions, panic selling, hype buying, procrastination, and inconsistent habits. A system protects you from your worst moods and rewards you on your most ordinary days. Secret number 5, thinking small is financially dangerous. Most people don't fail because they aim too high. They fail because they aim too low and hit it. Small goals often keep you inside the same structure, the same job ladder, the same limits, the same ceiling. Big goals force structural change. They push you toward ownership, leverage, scalability, and skill building. Don't just ask, how do I make a little more? Ask, what would have to change for my income to multiply? Thinking bigger isn't fantasy. It's permission to explore options beyond your current environment, peer group, and past. If your goals don't stretch you, they won't transform you. Secret number 6, your time is worth more than your paycheck. Money can be earned again. Time cannot. Your hourly wage is not the true value of your hour, it's just what someone pays you for it today. The real question is, what could this hour produce if I invested it strategically? If all your income comes from direct time for money exchange, your earnings are capped by the calendar. Leverage breaks the cap, assets that earn without your present, skills that raise your value, systems that scale output, ownership that compounds. A hard truth, your job funds today. Your extra hours fund tomorrow. You don't need burnout, you need intention. One focused hour beats 5 distracted ones. Over years, those hours become the difference between dependence and freedom. Secret number 7, luck is engineered. People call success luck when they don't see the setup behind it. Luck is rarely random. It's usually built. You increase luck by increasing surface area, the number of ways opportunity can collide with you. Luck tends to follow 4 behaviors. 1. Preparation, skills ready before the moment arrives. 2. Proximity, being in the right rooms, circles, markets. 3. Persistence, staying in the game long enough. 4. Participation, creating, publishing, pitching, building. If you do nothing, you have 0 exposure. 0 exposure creates 0 luck. You can't predict which attempt will hit. But you can increase the number of attempts, and probability will eventually reward you. Secret number 8, comparison destroys wealth quietly. Comparison doesn't just hurt feelings, it changes behavior. It makes people rush. It pushes people into status spending. It pressures people into risky moves they don't understand. Social media makes it worse because you compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Comparison shifts your focus from growth to image. Growth builds wealth. Image often spends it. Measure forward, not sideways. Am I more skilled than last year? Are my assets growing? Is my income more diversified? Is my system more consistent? The only person you need to beat is who you used to be. Secret number 9, your identity sets your income ceiling. Your income rarely stays above your self-image for long. If you believe, I'm not good with money, I'm not an investor, people like me don't build wealth, you'll unconsciously make decisions that prove it true. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior creates results. Results reinforce identity. So flip it, don't wait to feel wealthy to act like a builder. Act like a builder until it becomes who you are. Create evidence with small wins, invest consistently, even if small, track your progress monthly, learn one high-value concept weekly, build one scalable project slowly. Identity doesn't change from motivation. It changes from repeated proof. Secret number 10, money is a tool, not the destination. If you misunderstand this, you can make money and still feel poor. Money solves money problems. It doesn't automatically create purpose, discipline, or peace. Money is an amplifier. It amplifies habits, it amplifies character, it amplifies priorities. So the real question is, what is money for? Freedom, health, time, family, options, impact. When wealth is aligned, it serves your life. When it isn't, it becomes another form of pressure. Build value consistently, and money follows. But build yourself first: skill, discipline, mindset, and standards. Because the ultimate win is not a number. It's autonomy. The real continuation: execution. The last secret is simple: knowledge without action is entertainment. So here's the wealth loop. 1. Learn. 2. Apply. 3. Review. 4. Refine. 5. Scale. 6. Repeat. Pick one secret and apply it this week. Automate one transfer. Spend 1 hour building a skill that raises income. Cut one draining commitment. Increase exposure once. Publish, pitch, network. Set one bigger goal and map the first step. Wealth isn't built by listening. It's built by deciding. If you want, tell me. 1. Who this script is for: teens, working adults, entrepreneurs. 2. The tone: more aggressive, more calm, more audiobook. And 3. The target length: 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'll tailor a tighter version for your exact use.